In this lecture, we're going to create a new game object for managing the input system. Let's take a moment to think about this. In the scene, we have a player object with a component called movement. This component will handle the move event. The question is, where does the move event come from? The move event will never happen because the input action file is not in our scene. We've created a file with a complete list of actions. However, Unity does not automatically load this file into our game. We're responsible for loading it onto a game object. The question becomes, which game object? Technically, we could load it on the player object, but I don't think that would be efficient. In the future, we are going to create a menu system. Menus require a separate game object. Therefore, we must load the input action again on a different object. The more objects that require input from a controller, the more times we must load the input action file. Loading this file multiple times will not severely impact the game's performance. On the other hand, it may be annoying to search for where this file has been loaded. In my opinion, we should load this file once on a game manager. In Unity game development, there's a concept known as a manager. Managers are scripts or game objects responsible for controlling other game objects. Most of the time, a script should affect the game object it's attached to. In a few cases, a script may need to interact with a different game object. We refer to these types of scripts as managers. There are different types of managers you can create. Audio managers are popular in game development. Managers can keep track of the player's score. One last example would be creating a manager for tracking enemies on a map. The most popular type of manager is called a game manager. Game managers are thought of as the brain of a game. It manages the bigger picture stuff. There aren't any rules for what can be controlled by a game manager. For our game, we're going to use the game manager for loading the input actions file. Let's create a new game object. In the hierarchy, add a new game object. The name of the object should be called Game Manager. Next, let's reset the transform component. Resetting the transform data is optional. Unlike other projects, managers don't have to contain visual information. Its position is irrelevant. However, I like to reset the transform as good practice. It's a good habit to get into. Next, let's drag this object into the core folder to create a prefab. Great, we've created a game manager. In the next lecture, let's load the input actions file on this game object.